Hey, guess what? I am back with another video. It's 1:44 p.m. and it's November 13th, Thursday afternoon. It's like, I cannot win today. It looks like the weather just looks like crap, and then there's talking about it's very windy outside, and it's basically saying in the little weather report that there's dust in the air, like there's literally dust blowing everywhere. I'm like, I want to get out of the house. I want to get out of the house so bad. But it's like I just, there's no real I need sunlight. I need the vitality of the sun to like, get on my skin and make me feel, revitalized. And if there's no sun, then I guess I'm going to stay in today. And this really pisses me off because I really don't have anything to do except for sit around and make videos complaining about the same thing that I've been complaining about. So anyway, I did, I was like, meditating, and I did think about the whole Monday merriment. And I know that a lot of people see it. Like I said, I never got a chance to get any direct reviews on my Monday merriment because it was being manned pretty much by the Shadow Channel. And this was all orchestrated by somebody who never had any authorization to touch my work. This was like a co-worker, Mary Landucci. So, the thing is that, this is my passion. It's my passion, which I am entitled to have. I'm entitled to have, hobbies. We're entitled to have hobbies in the United States. This is one of the reasons why we have stores like Michael's and Joann's and other, hobby stores. Okay. Obviously, if there's hobby stores, that means it's open for business and people have the right to have hobbies. Some people have different kind of hobbies, like, I like sewing. I have a sewing machine. I am not somebody who knows how to knit with, it looks like the sun's playing peekaboo right now. The sun's up right now, but there's a bunch of clouds. And so it's getting my hopes up high so that if I want to board the bus, it's going to sit here and get all dark again. I already know that game. But anyway, but we have hobby stores, and I don't know how to knit really. I use like a knitting loom. I don't know how to paint professionally, but I'll like paint flower pots and stuff like that. These things are available in the store, okay, for people to purchase these items because it's encouraged to have some sort of hobby or some sort of outlet. Obviously, it's legal to do so. Now, I don't know, maybe Mary Landucci belonged to a religion and there are some Christian sects, okay, not all Christian denominations feel this way, but some Christian sects do not believe in any sort of personal development, okay? For reasons that maybe only because the church only wants devotion to the church, okay? Like I said, if the Masons regard me as the savior, okay, and I was King Solomon, and I also do believe that the image or the idea of Jesus Christ was based off of my image, or not my image, but who I was, I would certainly never ask anybody to live an oppressive life like that, okay? So I know that there's the service to God and there's the service to man. And there, just looking at the cloning system, how a particular group of people or groups of people wanted to punish other people just because we were people who excelled or had special gifts. Okay, so there's envy in other people and competitive nature in people. Okay, so that's really what it boils down to. If people have the desire to do it, right, the desire to accomplish something, like for example, maybe somebody wants to paint and they might come from a background to where, that's not encouraged to take a hobby, but you have to acknowledge the fact that they have the desire to do it. And what is wrong with that? Nobody can really come up with an answer as to why that's wrong. It's just the fact that this comes back from this idea of being bullied by groups of people who, if you were to excel at something, then they would take it out on you. I myself, if like I said, since I have spiritual gifts, I want people to enjoy their lives. I don't want people to be obstructed and feel miserable or anything like that. So I can tell you right now, if my voice matters, which I do believe it does. I mean, this is a reason why, the Masonic Temple, respects me. I want people to live their life to the fullest. I'm not sitting here asking people to live miserable lives and only have work and never have any sort of joy in their life. And I would say that, a lot of Christian sects do convince people to take on miserable lives. Okay, so when it comes to Monday Merriment, like I said, I'm looking for work. and I do not want to devote my time to anything until I get a job. That's just how it is. Now, before in the past, I was like this, but now it's just gotten to the point where it's like, you know what? I need a job. Period. That's the only thing I'm focused on, and anything else is just going to have to take the back burner. So anyway, people do think that I do produce good work. I do want to touch on this issue, going back to when I was dealing with surveillance at my workplace and when people were spotlighting me and when I was in some sort of, I know that Mary Landucci and like a bunch of people, coworkers, ex-coworkers, and then I had my adoptive family. I find it very offensive that my adoptive family would be involved in something like this, especially since I'm over the age of 18, and allow this sort of stuff to happen. This right here is the end of the deal. Like this, revealed too much. And this is what I'm saying is why I do not have a relationship with my family. You do not mess with a person's career. You do not mess with this sort of manipulation and put somebody in a position like this. It's unforgivable. It's absolutely unforgivable. Okay. Because I think about the years that I've been set back and the inconveniences that I've dealt with, and then they just kind of wash their hands of it. This was a terrorist attack. It's basically somebody terrorizing you, harassing you, stalking you, preventing you from work, putting you in a position of financial destitution, and them taking absolutely no responsibility for it. And then when they do offer you like some sort of compensation. It's where you have to work for your own compensation. That makes absolutely no sense. The intuitive message I'm getting right now is that yes, people do now see I'm right. I do deserve compensation for being a victim of labor trafficking. And that's what I'm a victim of. Human trafficking, yes, but specifically, how I talked about there's different kinds of human trafficking, labor trafficking. That meant that I'm an able-bodied person and I made an attempt to work, but I had Mary Landucci and her stupid friends blocking it, telling other employers not to communicate with me or trying to bully me into changing my life to accept a position at that point. Okay. Yes, I am able I should, like, for example, okay, like, how they were trying to hold it against me that I smoke weed, right? Now, I understand marijuana is legal. All right. So let's just say I'm somebody, I believe in smoking marijuana. I'm somebody who I don't go around promoting it, mind you, but I believe in what it has to offer. I look at it as a sacred herb, just like any other thing that grows, like an apple, grapes, anything that grows from the ground. I believe that these things are of God. I truly do believe that, okay? And that's my right to believe it. I'm not the only person who believes this. Rastafarians are considered to be Christians, okay? And yes, they do believe that marijuana is actually a holy sacrament. So I am one of those people who appreciate things from the earth. This is why I was talking about the agriculture. And yes, I do believe that marijuana is a gift from the divine. Now, I do not go around promoting it, but that's my choice to identify with this sort of lifestyle. So let's just say, for example, Mary Landucci didn't think I was good enough for flourishing fart. I had the right to go find a job at a dispensary. Why couldn't I manage a dispensary? This is what I'm saying is this is my lifestyle. This is what I believe in. I believe in the things of the earth, okay? And marijuana is one of them. And so, if she's sitting here complaining about it, which she really didn't have any right to do that, right? She has the right to her opinion, but she had no right to obstruct me. She certainly didn't have the right to sit here and spy on me and encourage other people to use that against me, right? Even though I understand, like, when you go and purchase marijuana, people can see you walking into a dispensary. Okay, they can see you doing that. But at the same time, I do think that dispensaries going forward should offer more. What do you call it? Confidentiality when it comes to servicing people, if they have the ability to do that. But anyway, like I'm saying is that I prefer to be in an environment that is conducive to my lifestyle, and I don't have a problem with marijuana. I honestly do believe that it is a spiritual herb. I highly respect it. So with that being said, then I should have been able to find a job at a dispensary. Or, I could have been, if I had the money, I would open my own dispensary or something like that. It's just like Mary Landucci took liberties where she did not, should not have done that. Aside from that, like I said, marijuana is legal here. Some people are going to have negative feelings about it, but that's my right to live this lifestyle. I choose to live what they call an alternative lifestyle. Meaning, like, no, I don't consider myself a conservative, but I don't consider myself a liberal either. And I consider myself somewhere straight down the middle. You know what I mean? That's just the way it is. So the intuitive message that's coming to my mind is that yes, Christianity is a lie. Like I said, I don't want to bash Christianity in general, okay? But we know people did some pretty shady things within the church, okay? And we know that individuals who go to different churches have always collaborated and used religion as an excuse to bully up on other people. Um, so anyway, yeah, I'm somebody who is a fully functional person who partakes in marijuana, and I'm open about it, like, because it's on my video. Now, in daily life, I don't go around striking up conversations to other people about my marijuana use or anything like that. You know why? Because it's a personal thing. It's a very personal thing. It's like, just like people don't, I don't expect the next door neighbor to get on YouTube and tell people that he had a glass of wine with his dinner, or that he sat there and watched the football game with the bottle of beer. That's his personal business. Okay, so Mary Landucci, as well as her friends, they don't understand. They want to create a utopia based on how they want to see things, and they want to force other people to adhere to that. And I'm saying no. I bet you she kept looking at me like I was a rebellious person. I'm not rebelling against anybody. She didn't have any authority in the first place. Okay. Now, going back to this issue, this message, I know that when I was being viewed by these particular groups of people, and I'm referring to Vladimir Putin, right? I do believe maybe certain people, maybe representatives other than him, may have witnessed how I live my life. Okay. And I think that this concept might be new to people in Russia because, here's the thing. Growing up, I remember in the 1980s, the only thing I heard about Russia is that it was a very controlling place, that people lived a very dark life. And I had never been there myself. And I refused to listen to what other people were saying about the country because I felt as though there was a possibility that it could just be propaganda. I have never stepped foot in Russia, at least not in this life, okay? Maybe in CB Briganda's life. Who's to say? I could have been Saint Nick, okay? I do believe that Saint Nick had Russian origins. Who's to say? I don't know. Okay, but anyway, I'm saying is that I would like to hear that from a Russian person themselves instead of me hearing things, because like I said, I love this country, but our country, sometimes people get a little bit carried away with things like propaganda, and then their attempts to make us realize what a great country United States is, they're going to say things about Russia that may not be true. So instead of me hearing it from other people, I would prefer to hear it directly from a source, who lives there. Okay. I can honestly say firsthand that I do not have any knowledge of how things were. I believed, well, I shouldn't say believe, but as growing up here in this country, we were always led to believe that Russian people did not have choices as to what kind of career they had. They were given their careers and so on and so forth. Now, the sad part is here in the United States, we have laws to prevent that. We're supposed to be able to pursue our goals, blah, 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 blah. But we have these little systems that work behind the scenes to manipulate our employment. And where that comes from is generally religion. Religion. So I don't know. I would love the opportunity to talk to people from countries. See, even though that's not my, it's not, I don't deal with their issues. I don't like to hear about people who are oppressed. So it's like if my information about self-love and expression has helped places like Russia, then I can't tell you how happy I am, especially if it really was like that, where their lives felt like it was just nothing but darkness, and now they have the ability to take time and care for themselves where nobody else really gave them that. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with loving yourself and taking care of yourself, especially if you are somebody who has dealt with abuse. Okay. Because I will tell you, in this world, no one's going to give you or patch up your heart or your blemishes or the pain that you've experienced. Okay. Most people don't even think about the things that they do. They'll do something to you and they'll just walk off and not really think about how it affects you psychologically and everything. The only person that's going to sit here and mend your heart is you. Okay, that's just the way it is. So if, I know if I was to live in I mean, anybody who lives in an oppressive type place, okay, and I don't know if Russia really was that oppressed or that was just some sort of propaganda I heard, okay, I don't know for sure, okay, like I said, until somebody tells me that from their direct mouth who is lived there themselves, I will refuse to listen to it, okay? But if they did live oppressive lives, if they were experiencing hardships and they felt as though there was a lot of darkness that hung over their life, if what I'm saying is giving them some sort of hope, I can't tell you how happy that makes me. Good. Okay, the message I'm getting right now is joy comes to those who love the New World Order. Everyone feels better and agrees that this is a better system. And then also, I get this intuitive message that I have the best political views. I also get the intuitive message that Vladimir Putin seems to have a lot of respect for me and that he does consider himself to be somebody who is a man of substance. Meaning, I know he's a sharp dresser for sure. And yes, I do deserve compensation. The other message I'm getting is that, give me a second here. This is upside down. Something about me, and oh yeah, the inhabiting of dolls. I think that a lot of people, not just me, have received, extensive and excessive, I should say, abuse from the church system. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of people who experience different kinds of abuse. In this case, the cloning system, using relatives to vouch to as to whether or not you get cloned again is very crooked. Why? Because people are obviously going to take advantage of that, use you, abuse you, or whatever. Okay, obviously whose authorization, we're talking about your own soul here, okay? So nobody should have any say over your afterlife other than you, okay? So this is one of the reasons, just another reason why I do not approve of the cloning system. I don't ever want to be cloned again. And I did mention this when I first realized I was a clone. I remember addressing people like, the royal family and letting them know, hey, I don't agree with this. You know what I mean? And I don't agree with it. Like, if it's something that you choose to do yourself, then that's your choice. You know what I mean? And obviously, because it can be done, and like I said, even though it's not nature, like it's like the semen and fertilizing the egg, and then which produces a child the natural way, if it's an alternative form of nature, it can still be done. Okay, the desire for somebody to create another human being comes into their head, and they actually produce it. You can produce a child off of any sort of, I guess, body liquid or fluid or whatever. Then it's still kind of a part of nature. It's by the fact that it can be done. The fact is that I don't approve of it for myself. Okay, I don't ever want to be cloned again. Especially looking at this hamster wheel nightmare. You know what I mean? The way that they bring clones into existence by putting them into fake families, and then these families are very abusive, if not neglectful. It's of no benefit to the child. This is one of the reasons why I was talking about if people choose to, like okay, for example, I use the white race because I know that they have fertility issues, and they're probably wondering, okay, how are we going to produce more people? If this is their choice, I'm saying it's far more better to raise them in like humane type foster care systems where kids are like within the same age group. This way they can have a sense of community, and they can have the kind of enrichment of a peer group, okay? And then maybe do this for maybe a few generations, and then start encouraging things like marriage. Because by that time you would be able to influence them and give them proper guidance on how to build better family lives. Okay, I mean, obviously there needs to be a reset like nobody's business. So the intuitive message I'm getting right now is that yeah, people do agree that it was them who were spying on me, monitoring me, acknowledging me, and looking at me as Prince Alamehu, not realizing that they themselves were clones. And now they found out, and it is very shocking. Think about all the times where your parents seemed a little bit too cold and too distant. Well, now you know why, okay? This is the reason why. Okay, so apparently Vladimir Putin has talked to, I believe, the press about me, and something about, I guess he's kind of defending me, and I do appreciate that. Thing is, I do want to meet this person. Like I said, I really do. And I know that Mary Landucci was encouraging people not to talk to me, and the reason why she was doing this is because she felt as though something about me, the way that I look. She felt very. How some people they develop this hatred towards people where they feel like they're jealous of them. So because I'm dressed nice and stuff like that, she felt as though I was not entitled to have a social life, as retarded as that is. Now, I don't know, something about Mary Landucci Mary Landucci, I guess she realized something about Vladimir Putin. Okay, I don't think that Mary Landucci is of like Russian descent or anything, and the reason why I say this is because I recognize Landucci. It sounds like an Italian name and not really, But I think what she was trying to do was she was trying to relate this through religion. Okay, and here in this country, in the United States, we have the First Amendment, which means that we do not. There is no actual religion that represents the country. Okay, um, and that's it. That's it. Okay. So maybe I don't know, is Russia ruled primarily? The intuitive message I'm getting is yes, yes, yes. Like, yeah, okay, there's a lot of religious influence in Russia. And I don't ever want to overstep my boundaries and say anything that I shouldn't. I'm just saying is we already know that the church made a lot of mistakes. Okay, we know that the church did. The church is nothing more. It boils down to run by human beings, and human beings are likely to err. Okay, so it seems as though maybe over there in Russia things are getting different. The intuitive message I'm getting is that I am at peace with all religions. Good. I'm very glad. You know what I mean? So anyway, yeah. So now at this point in my life, if I choose, I don't know anybody, but if I choose to like meet people, I should be able to do that. We should not be, being ruled by this religious thing or whatever. You know what I mean? I know that I talked about collaborating with people in the past. I know Mary used religion as an excuse to prevent me from meeting people, and then getting the assistance that I need. And I am very grateful for the intuitive message that I did get that Mary Landucci is dead, okay, because she deserved to die. I honestly do not have any compassion for people who want to compete with other people in that sort of manner. I believe that everybody is entitled to find work, okay? And, even though I look at myself as an exceptional, skilled person, I do. I look at myself as exceptionally skilled. I'm not trying to compare myself with people, but I've heard the excuses of people not turning their work in on time, or people who, call in sick and then they just let their assignment slide and everything. And nobody could say that I ever do that. I don't. Okay, but yet I have a hard time. And it's people like Mary Landucci who are like half-assers. Like they don't really do their job, but they somehow want to get paid for it. Or they somehow want the prestige for it. Or they want something, they want like maybe a certain to be belong to a certain class group or whatever, but they're not really willing to put in the work. How they do put in the work is by keeping their, control over other people and making sure that no one else rises. And that's BS, okay? And unfortunately, I understand people have always done shady things like this, and business in general is a very, nasty situation where you can expect to find a lot of backstabbers. That's unfortunate, okay? But I'm trying to make the best of my life. I feel as though these people have sucked up so many years of my life, and I'm tired. I don't like being at home. I don't like waking up every day like, man, when am I going to find a job? Like, are things going to get better? And I hear a lot of people talking about this, okay? The sad part is that, you know, uh, people just like getting by. They don't really care about the quality of work. And why is it that these employers allow this to happen? I don't really think a lot of employers realize just how bad it is, okay? But they really need to pay more attention to what their employees are doing. So anyway, I do get the intuitive message that people do think I should go into the direction of becoming the president of the United States at some point, and I know there in the past there have been stipulations on, from what I understand, okay, like I mentioned, I had heard something about Donald Trump not being able to have a car and all this other stuff. This is just, I personally think it's these Christian people who just want to put limitations on us already for things that we had no control over. Okay, so I'll be damned if somebody's going to sit here and try to put these sort of limitations on me. I real refuse to do it. I am not interested in, being deprived of. Now, I can understand if, as you are president of the United States, for your safety reasons, there may be reasons why you cannot own a car. Okay, because if something happens to you, then you'd have to replace the president and then the next, vice president, all this other. For safety reasons, I can understand it, but I believe that, that we understand what the church made a mistake. Clones should have all the opportunities that anyone else has, and I'd be damned if somebody's going to tell me I'm not going to have a car, okay? And I'm also going to be damned if somebody's going to sit here and try to tell me how I'm supposed to present myself as the president of the United States. I would say that I would present myself as somebody who just me, just how I am. This is how I would be as a president of the United States. Now, if I was going to be the president of the United States, what I would think is I would need to improve a few skills, such as speech. Okay, like, I am not somebody who gives good speeches. Okay, I'm somebody who says and I kind of space out because what was I going to say? I don't know. I did not master that. I tried to go to, like, Toastmaster classes back in the 1990s. It didn't stick for very long because I was being stalked there too. Okay, so I don't have a lot of those, like, speaking skills that maybe I would be missing out on. So I would need to get a little bit more brushed up on all of that. But yeah, as far as me, wanting to make the world a better place, yeah, I mean, that's all there. That is definitely all there. So anyway, it looks like my day is shot. I don't really feel like I want to go out today because it looks like crap. And so my biggest issue was I just wanted to go out and pick up a couple grocery items, and maybe I will later. Shoot, man, I don't feel like it because it looks like crap outside. And I also wanted to get something because I was making some soup today. I wanted to make some soup, and I felt as though this soup would be better if I had chicken broth in it. Like, I feel as though chicken broth is an essential part of a soup. Like, I like my soup salty. I like a lot of salt in my soup. And I know sodium is not the greatest thing to have, but like without it, things are just really flavorless. So I'm like kind of debating, should I just have like the soup without the chicken broth? And then I keep thinking how bland it's going to be. I guess I'll just add more salt. I guess I don't really feel like going anywhere right now. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this video up, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye.